a beautiful night, and it's a beautiful world, and it's a beautiful time to be here, to be here.
Hi, I'm David from No Kill, Colorado. I'm here with Aubrie Kavanaugh today from No Kill Huntsville and Alan Rosenberg from the New Jersey Animal Observer. Pretty exciting news. We haven't had a pet in the White House for the last 8 years. And we have 2 dogs coming into the White House with the Bidens. One of them is actually adopted from a shelter. There was actually, I was reading a BuzzFeed article today that Aubrie had sent out. And actually there was another dog that they considered was rescued. I think it was, I forget who it was from, but they actually took a stray off the street. But that was probably really common. Actually, there was probably a lot of those in presidential history. This is the first one that was actually adopted from a shelter, adopted from Delaware Humane Society. I think it was Champ. He has 2 dogs. One of them is Champ, I think. And it's really nice to see. I mean, it's kind of been an American thing for a long time that there's a pet in the White House, mainly dogs, but they're not always dogs. And it's just good to see and what it might actually do for our, ecosystem, so to speak. That this is out there. Alan, what do you think about the dogs coming into the White House?
Well, I think it's fantastic. I think we all remember when Obama came in, a lot of people were disappointed when there was talk of him adopting a dog, and then he ended up buying a dog from a breeder that I think Ted Kennedy recommended, because I think he said one of his daughters had allergies, which I think a lot of people didn't really buy. And of course, Trump didn't have a dog at all in the last 4 years. So I think it's wonderful that Biden decided to adopt a dog. Actually, I remember a couple of years ago when it was running through social media that he adopted a dog, and it was nice. He was a public figure, former vice president. That was all good and well. But when you actually have an adopted dog in the White House, and I might add a large breed dog, not a pit bull, but still a large breed dog, which do struggle at shelters, it sends a really excellent message to the public, because everything about the first family is in the public's eye. And I think adopting a dog will certainly become something that will be more, people will become more aware of. And I think that's a great thing. So I'm really hoping there'll be a lot of stories with Major doing funny things in the White House, and reporters writing stories or filming stories on it. So I really look forward to all that.
Well, just so you know, if you don't know, they have their own Twitter account. I don't remember what it is. I think it's @first_USA_dog, something like that. Anyway, they have their own Twitter account. So hopefully they keep that up and going after that. What's also cool is they came from the Delaware Humane Society. Now, Delaware, as we know, is actually it's the only state that actually has some form of CAPA. And that dog was actually adopted after CAPA went in, I believe.
2 years ago,
yeah. And so I mean, Delaware has become the state where rescue matters. Our president-elect is actually coming from that state, and that's kind of exciting, of that connection to the White House as well. Aubrie, what do you think?
I was thrilled to hear about the fact that they have 2 dogs and that one is a rescue. And you get different things from different articles. But one of them that I read recently said that before the Bidens were part of the administration the first time, that apparently Dr. Jill Biden had said something to Joe about, okay, now that we're going to be in the White House, I'm going to get you a dog. And I think that she actually had plans to get him a rescue dog, but something happened and he ended up getting a dog from a breeder. And so they agreed that the next time they got a dog, that they for sure would get a dog from a shelter or rescue group. So I think it's interesting that what we have here is we have a family that has one dog that they got from a breeder in 2008, Champ, and now we have a dog in 2018 that came not only from a shelter, but they fostered the dog before they adopted
They
it.
did.
So
I
they
saw
can
that.
not only about the value of getting an animal from a shelter, but they can talk about their experience as a foster family. So you've got that dynamic. And I think what will be interesting is obviously the dogs are far apart in age. I mean, they've had Champ for 12 years. So, I mean, he's been around a while, but because they're both German Shepherds, they're large. When they're in photos together, I think that we'll end up in a situation where people may be hard pressed to pick out the purebred dog from the shelter dog. And I think that that's going to have benefits to it. If they're in a video, maybe trotting across the lawn, it will be easier to tell the young dog from the older dog. But I just think it's great that a family made a conscious decision to do this. Apparently it was at their daughter's urging because Major was in a litter of dogs that had compromised health issues, and that's part of why they had to be fostered. So I think that it sets the stage, like Alan said, anytime that you have a larger than life public figure that has adopted an animal, then people pay more attention to that and they start thinking, well, maybe I should do that for my own family.
We need a list, actually, is what I'm thinking. And I don't know, someone out there who's listening to this video, you should do this. Find a list of like all the politicians that you know and find out which ones rescued and didn't. Make a list of all the ones who rescued just to give them a bonus. You know, I think we've talked about this before on here once or twice. I know we've talked about it personally between all of us. Rescue is a nonpartisan issue. Animals are a nonpartisan issue, which is, you know, probably really one of the great things, especially in today's world, about in the way, you know, people become so confrontational about a lot of political issues. Everyone has pets, right? Political affiliation, you know, religion, gender, race. Pets are one thing that actually bind us all, and it's really nice to see it in the White House of where hopefully we do get that example, and we can actually use that going forward to actually help people understand how important it is. I don't have any other questions on this.
I would just add one thing to that point, David. Not only is rescuing a nonpartisan issue, but so is shelter reform. I actually did a post a week or so ago about this. I started thinking about when the election was coming up, and you know, everyone was at each other's throats on Facebook and social media about who their favorite candidate was, and which one they hated, and all that. And I was thinking about all the shelter reform advocates I've worked closely with along the years. And what amazed me is some of the best, if not many of the best shelter reform advocates I've worked with actually disagreed with me completely on political issues, whether it was on the left side or the right side. They just, you know, we didn't agree on almost anything. But when it came to shelter reform, we were like that together. And I believe it's because shelter reform is just such a no-brainer and such a righteous thing to do that people of all types of beliefs get together and do it. And I believe the same thing goes with rescue as well, of course.
What I like about shelter reform, and Aubrie, maybe you can expound upon this because I know that, you know, you look a lot at government and tax, is, you know, you have several ways that shelter reform comes about. There's straight compassion. People just think it's the right thing to do. The fact is, we've shown that the economics of no kill is actually better than the economics of kill shelters. There's just the way it helps people as well as animals. So yeah, I'm just throwing that out, Aubrie. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, because I know you have thoughts on taxes and shelters.
Well, I think Alan is completely right. This is a nonpartisan issue. And I think that what this shows us is that when we're talking about animal shelter reform, we're talking about a matter of ethics and morality. So it's easy for people to, once they figure out what's happening at shelters that they don't like, to say, you know what, I'm going to speak out. I'm going to stand up because the animals can't do it for themselves. I'm all about free speech. I mean, I'm a veteran. I work in the legal field. We do municipal representation. I'm pretty familiar with how elected officials think and function. Not to be flippant about it, but I have a general idea of what motivates them. And a lot of times it's easy to just keep doing the same thing because I mean, it works. And if the public doesn't raise enough of a ruckus, well, we must be doing something right. So I think that this is an issue that it's really easy for people to get behind because for them, it's a matter of right and wrong. And there aren't a whole lot of shades of gray. And so it's easier for them to say, you know what, I don't like the way my tax dollars are being spent. And so I'm going to speak up. And I really genuinely believe in places where healthy and treatable animals are being killed, a lot of times it takes the public saying, hey, we're paying for this and we don't like it and we want it to change to get elected officials to listen. It's just an easy issue to get behind. I've never met anyone that said, if I can spend $100 of tax money to keep an animal alive, oh no, I'd rather spend that same $100 to end the life of an animal. Never. I've never met anyone who felt that way. So I just think it's easy to get behind. I think, Alan, I think the word you used was righteous, and it is. It's an easy issue to support.
So I have one quick kind of funny question. I was trying to think of this, and I think, Aubrie, you had mentioned something about this. So I'm going to ask, what is the cabinet position that would get him to create for pets? And I couldn't think of it. Secretary of Pet Defense, Secretary. What do you got? Do you have anything, Aubrie?
I was actually joking on social media last week, and I don't know if Nathan Winograd picked up on it, but I joked that we needed a Secretary of Animal Shelter Reform, and that needed to be its own department. And I think a lot of people would scoff at that because, of course, a lot of people don't want government to be any bigger than it is, right? But this would simply be an advisory agency within the federal government. And I think it's part joke, but it's part not, right? Because even though animal shelters are a state issue and they're a local municipal issue, they're not a federal issue. We see examples all the time where the federal government is providing guidance for how those organizations function. I mean, like education, we have a Department of Education, right? Even though education is handled at the local level, state and local level. So I would love to see Nathan Winograd become the confirmed as the Secretary of the Animal Shelter Reform Department and at least provide guidance and maybe even some financial incentives. I mean, we know that these government organizations, there are regular meetings of governors that come together. I mean, I would love for the governor of every state to get together with some type of federal agency to say, hey, did you realize that in your state, a lot of tax dollars are being spent in ways that are really not productive? It was just kind of a pie in the sky post that I put, and I think the end was like dare to dream.
All right. Yeah. Any last thoughts on that, Alan?
Or maybe just broadening it out to the companion pet animal advisory commission. That would be a commission that would be headed.
That would have longer duration benefits. So yeah, you're right. Let's not limit it. Let's make it a little bigger.
You know, it could advise other things the federal government's involved in, such as commercial pet breeding operations, mills, as we like to call them, and get the USDA out of being the sole agency regulating that, because I think they don't have the right interest in mind. They view mother dogs and cats and their litters as livestock, when the overall public views them as companion animals. That at least, even though it may not be correct in terms of morals, the public does put a higher value on companion animals and livestock.
I like Alan's idea. I retract what I said. Let's make the scope more broad. Yeah.
At one of my previous jobs, somebody made me this funny little business card, because even though we were a technology company, pets always come into the conversation. Even in business conversations, I wound up on a conversation about homeless pets. So they got me these fake cards that were David Smith, CPO, Chief Pet Officer. So I think we can do something in the cabinet with Biden. We'll have to look at that. But we're out of time. This is a great conversation. We'll talk to everybody next week. This has been No Kill in Motion with Aubrie Kavanaugh, Alan Rosenberg, and myself, David Smith. We'll talk to you soon.